used to work with leaders, coach them, teach them so that they could solve problems in a way that they didn't come back.
In this conversation, we're going to talk about the psychology behind self-talk, how it impacts leadership in daily life.
We're going to be talking about today self-talk because it is the root of so much. Leadership is how you show up every single day. All this chaos that is within our control, but we don't realize it.
But I want to start, and I'm at least aware enough to know that this is my pattern of thinking.
Yeah.
What are some things that I can do every day to move me in the right direction?
First of all, it all starts with habits. And I always say simple and daily.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Game Changer Podcast. My name is Michelle Dutro. I'm your host, and we are joined today by Marianne Renner. You are going to love this show. Whether or not you're a female, let's understand that. This may seem like, oh, this is really, women-driven. I've had some Navy SEALs on here that it seemed like it was very men-driven, so we're kind of evening the scales, but let's understand life lessons are life lessons. So that said, let me tell you a little bit about her. Marianne Renner is a leadership coach, keynote speaker, and TEDx presenter who has helped thousands of leaders remove self-imposed barriers and unlock their greatest potential with a background in human behavior and root cause problem solving, which is imperative. Marianne has a gift for helping people see what's really driving their decisions and how to shift those patterns for lasting success. Her newest book, right behind her, Self-Talk, 10 Stories You Tell Yourself That Hold You Back and How to Overcome Them, takes a deep look at the inner dialogue that quietly shapes our confidence, performance, and sense of possibility. These are the stories that run in the background of our minds, and Marianne shows us how to rewire them. In this conversation, we're going to talk about the psychology behind self-talk, how it impacts leadership in daily life, and the simple but powerful practices that help us move from limitation to clarity and confidence. That said, is there anything that I left out that the audience needs to know about you and your work before we dive in?
Michelle, you nailed it. It was perfect. Yeah.
Well, that's a great way to start. That is fantastic. You should start my day with that every day. That is great. Okay, before we do dive in, offline, you were just mentioning your prior career. So I'm going to have you just, because that is relevant, it's part of your greatness and how you became who you became, but just walk us through a little bit about what you used to do and what you're doing now and where and why that transition happened.
Okay. So my journey has been kind of a zigzag more than a stair-step ladder, but I started my career as a newspaper reporter. I was a journalism major, and, it's interesting because I always like to say it was very cool. I got to write lots of stories about other people's lives. But we'll get into today is that the biggest story that any of us are writing are the stories of our own life. And we're not doing that with a laptop or pen and paper, but that little typewriter that's right between our ears. And we'll get more into that. And then I transitioned to marketing communications. And that's really where I got into root cause problem solving, really understanding the marketplace, what drives people's decisions and what makes them tick. I spent a period of time in the traditional workplace helping leaders solve problems at the root. So a whole suite of root cause problem solving tools that I used to work with leaders, coach them, teach them so that they could solve problems in a way that they didn't come back or that they went away. So that's usually what's happening, or people are solving problems that are at the surface that they see, and they either don't go away or they pop back up like the nasty dandelions in my yard, like a while later. And so all of that led me to what I'm doing today, which is a lot of leadership coaching and speaking at conferences to leaders, and also group trainings in terms of all kinds of leadership tools. But the most effective training is what we're going to be talking about today, self-talk, because it is the root of so much of what's going on.
Exactly. So talk us through a little bit of your philosophy, if you will. You've had a lot of time working with very high-end, whether it's business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, whoever they are, that I know you see a lot of common thread.
Yeah. Yeah.
in challenges, in what,
Mhm.
folks are facing. I know that I talk to people that also work and speak internationally, and they're going, Michelle, it doesn't matter the country. The
Right.
problems are the problems are the problems. And so that said, if you had just given a talk or a workshop or something, and somebody were to leave, what would they know about your philosophy or your beliefs
Yeah.
about leadership and how to lead your own life? What
Yeah.
what is your backbone, your foundation that you teach from?
I love this conversation. I have this every single day because I'm talking with people. Some of them are leaders that have direct reports. Like I have a position on an org chart, I have a title, but that is only one small aspect of leadership because leadership is how you show up every single day. How you show up is influencing everyone around you. If we think of leadership as influence, that shows up in the grocery store with the checkout person at the checkout counter, on the road as you're driving. I just had this conversation with someone yesterday who wants an org chart leader position. And I said, you can show up as a leader right now without that position. And so it does come down to personal responsibility, personal accountability, and how you want to show up in the world.
So I love that philosophy. I agree. The one, how you do one thing is how you do everything. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter at the grocery store, at the
right.
restaurant, at the job that you're being paid to be a certain way. That default of how you actually are is going to surface itself. So with that, for folks that are wanting that promotion and not getting it, I'm
Yeah,
sure that you have worked with people saying, I'm doing everything right.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and the reality is if we were doing everything right, we'd have that promotion, we'd have that next thing, the opportunities would be coming.
yeah.
So how do you work with someone on self-awareness
Mhm.
of honesty
Yes.
and self-reflection of the truth, because
Yeah,
I'm sure you agree if we don't get to the bottom of that, there's no way to make a roadmap out
right.
if we're not honest with where we are.
Yeah. You are spot on. That is the conversation. Question people ask me, well, Marianne, if the answer is self-awareness, if I'm not aware, how do I get awareness if I'm not aware? Like, how does that happen? And we've got lots of tools to help you do that. When people are coming to me, and this is what I hear all the time, I'm excellent at the work that I do. I work harder than anyone else. Like, why didn't I get the promotion? Like, what's wrong with the rest of the world? Why don't they see this? And I always say, being excellent at what you do and working hard, that's a baseline. Like, you have to have the excellent skill sets. That's going to be on LinkedIn and the job description. That only puts you even with everyone else. If you want to rise above the line, above that baseline, then it's all about mindset. So I always say your skill set is really only 20% of your success. Mindset is 80%. And, I have to really clarify for people, I'm not saying that skill set is not important, but I'm just saying it's ground zero. It's just where you start. And then it's all about mindset, which when we're talking about discussing self-talk, it's just really that's what we're talking about is your mindset. In terms of like awareness, we have all kinds of tools in the book to help you start with how do you know you're telling yourself sabotaging stories because they show up. You don't realize in the way that they show up that they're stories. You just think this is the situation and I'm stuck.
Yeah. Yep. So let's dive into that. So you have the 10 stories that you tell yourself that hold you back. Give us a couple of the most common that
Yeah.
you see repetitively over and over
Hmm.
that keep people where they are, and they think that look what life is doing to me,
Yes.
without realizing, well, actually you have the ability to turn this around. But
Yes.
if we don't change that story and that narrative, it's
Right.
never going to happen. What are the
Right.
most common ones that you see in folks' lives?
Number one, all different versions of it's not fair. So it's not fair. We don't, so people say, well, I never say it's not fair. And we don't always use those words, but we say things like, why me? Why not me? Why this? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening again? I can't stand it. I hate it that the government is the way it is. I can't stand it that there's corporate politics. All of those are different versions of it's not fair. That's really common. The other one I would say would be different versions of I'm not good enough. So, sometimes, like that's the secret. So we might say out loud all these versions of it's not fair, and we can deal with them because we're hearing them, we're hearing ourselves, we can talk about that. But I'm not good enough. We usually don't say out loud, and we certainly don't say it in a group. If I'm at a conference or a workshop, nobody is raising their hand and saying, hey, I just want everyone to know that I experience so much self-doubt. I lack confidence. Sometimes I worry that it's just a matter of time before everybody else figures out I'm not as good or smart as they think I am. Like, we're not saying that, which is why
Right.
the workshop is so powerful, because I'm pretty much giving people permission to have these conversations in a group setting, because they're the things that people say to me one-on-one. It's sort of in secret, like it's this big, deep, dark secret that they have. And here's the reason too, Michelle, that this is so important, is because when people tell me the story, I have self-doubt, uncertainty, they think that they can keep it to themselves. But the reality is it leaks out, whether it's personal or professional life. In the workplace, it shows up as gossip. It shows up as being overly critical or overly judgmental of others. It shows up as backdoor politics, and it creates all this chaos that is within our control, but we don't realize it.
So on this one of I'm not, I just don't feel like I am good enough, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's I'm not a good enough public speaker, I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't have all the management tools. I want to
Yeah.
talk about a couple of different things that come to mind for me on this one. One is the person that has 97 different degrees.
Yeah.
12 MBAs, 15 PhDs. I mean, there are more letters than the alphabet behind their name.
Yeah.
And at some point, you actually knew enough. At
Yeah.
some point, 75 more letters was not going to be the difference of you getting booked for that
Right.
speaking gig. Yet that's kind of an indicator of
Yeah.
what's going on
Oh my
here.
gosh.
So there's one that I want to talk about, and
Yes.
then the other one is the difference between the feeling of I'm not good enough versus I'm not worthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who am I to say that I deserve this?
Yeah. Okay. Where do you want to start? I like that you want to
Let's
start with
start
the
with the
degrees.
letters. Let's
I
start
love.
with the you know what, I just and because I deal with this in my coaching programs as well. I'm going to do that when
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
have one more
Yeah.
course. I just need this. I just found this program that's online. And once I get through that, but then as soon as that's like a week from being finished, they're going to realize here's another one that showed up on
Yes.
their inbox. And I
Yes.
just need that one more,
Yes.
and then I'll be ready.
You
And
know
then,
who I Yeah, yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah,
You know who I hope is listening to this, is not just those folks that have all the degrees, but those folks who have zero. Because what I hear over and over is I can't yeah, it's kind of similar. I can't do that because I don't have the right degree. And there's
sure.
actually an example in the book of a client that I had. She was going to um she came to me, of course, she's miserable, her, strained workplace relationship, she's overwhelmed, she feels underappreciated, and she said she has like a kind of a high-level manager, director level position, and she said, "Marianne, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to just start cleaning houses." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's don't make that decision yet. Let's talk about this." And so she didn't believe that she could be happy where she was. She absolutely did not believe she could get hired anywhere else because she didn't have the right advanced degree. So,
Yeah.
so they're tied together. I'm not good enough, and all this degree stuff tied together. And so, she's just telling herself, I'm not smart enough. All the reasons I can't do it. And so we reframed that story that she was telling herself, because underneath it, and I think these two examples tie together, not good enough and not worthy. She just absolutely didn't think that she was. And I said, well, what about you got to where you are in this director level position based on who you are and your ability. It had nothing to do with a resume, a piece of paper, anything. Like to me, that's a phenomenal story, not a negative one. She ended up, we worked together a couple of years. She ended up staying in her job, and by the time we finished working together, she was the CEO of her organization.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
what would you say looking back were the couple of biggest shifts that were mandatory that she had to make
Yeah.
to really embrace and embody who she actually was in
Hmm.
order for that to happen?
Yeah. There's a chapter in the book called it's called Act As If. So there's a little bit of, people will say, if I don't have the confidence, or she didn't feel like she had the confidence. And, how do you get the confidence? Like it comes with experience. So until you get the experience and have the confidence, you sort of have to look at other people as models and model the behavior that they're exhibiting. So it was just a lot of reframing the self-talk that she had, and a little bit of acting as if she already were that leader, because like I said, leadership is about how you show up. So we talked about that. We also talked about just reframing, like anything, and we can talk a little bit about like how you become aware if you're not aware. So we talked about how to reframe identify the thoughts that are working against you, and reframing those, like the example I just shared.
So, do you feel in this specific case about her, did she feel that she was worthy of not only that position, the position of CEO? I mean, that's a big stretch from
Mhm.
I'm the CEO versus I'm going to go clean houses. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a big delta between
Yeah.
beliefs of identity, right? And what you're capable of and what you're worthy
Hmm.
of.
Yeah.
So, did she feel that she was worthy of that position and that title and that leadership role back then, or was that worthiness gained somewhere along the way?
Yeah, not in the moment that she came to me, but, sometimes I think, Michelle, it's a lot simpler than people think it is. And we're a lot closer. This is what I see with people I work with. They're a lot closer than they think they are. And sometimes it's just learning some tools, some basic tools, and then committing to practicing those tools and developing daily habits to start to change the behaviors and the mindsets.
So, I'm going to ask, give me a couple of those. So, daily practices, somebody's listening right now and they're thinking, okay, I feel like I fall in all these categories. I
Yeah.
don't know enough and I'm not enough and I'm not worthy of whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
But I want to start and I'm
Mhm.
at least aware enough to know that this is my pattern of thinking.
Yeah.
What are some things that I can do every day to move me in the right direction?
Mhm. So there's a chapter in the book called, building habits. And the reason, first of all, it all starts with habits. And I always say simple and daily. And it has to be simple. I mean, this is where most people, a lot of people go south on this, is because they think whether it's losing 10 pounds or, whatever the goal that they want to achieve, they just it's all or nothing, and it's like, well, I need to lose 10 pounds by next week, or, I'm a failure. And I always say, start small and build habits. And so the book, by the way, is there's a few sections. Number one, and I'll share this in a little bit, my personal experience, how personally learned these tools and lessons. And then there are great tools in every chapter, dozens and dozens, that will help you build the habits, change the mindsets, change your stories. So they're simple, very simple. As simple as reframing, we've heard about a lot of this before, but the reason is because it works. Daily gratitude journaling, 3 things you're grateful for every day. It depends, because so here's what's happening. People show up if they think, let's say, I'm not good enough. We'll just kind of stick with that theme. So, okay, what are you doing that's telling you you're not good enough? Usually they're focusing on all the ways they messed up today or yesterday. So there's, I'm just no good because I'm messing up. And so I'm always saying, focus on 3 things that you did right. I want you to just write down 3 wins for the day. And don't self-edit, because people will say, well, I got the kids fed and out the door and with lunches in their hands, but I'm supposed to do that because I'm a working mom. No, that's a win. Write it down. So
Right.
if you can start to write, so I'm a big believer in writing it down, because the next day you forget that you had those wins. So you can go back and read them. So we ruminate about our mistakes of the past, right? And that's usually I'm no good. So now write down the 3 wins from the day. That's number 1. Number 2 is in the present moment, we say it's no good. We might say all the reasons, like I don't like my job and I don't get along with my boss and somebody else is getting promoted and all these things. And I always say that's where the gratitude comes in. So write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. There are 3 things about that job you can come up with that you're grateful for. You're getting a paycheck. I can think of them off the top of my head. Benefits, paycheck, etc. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is what I call affirmation, because we're telling bad stories about the future. It'll never be good. It'll never work. Right? So we ruminate about the past, I'm no good. We ruminate about the present, it's no good. We worry about the future, it'll never be good. And we do this, oh, it's probably going to rain on my vacation. We do this all day long.
Yep.
People are using affirmations that work against them. Like all the reasons it'll never work out. And so we tend to give, I think, too much lightness to the idea of affirmations. I mean, it's been the brunt of Saturday Night Live skits and all kinds of things, but we're already telling ourselves affirmations. Let's just tell ones that work for us, not against us.
Right. And what's funny is when people get in that Eeyore kind of mindset, or Chicken Little, the sky is falling, is I think it was Ford who said, I don't know, I could be wrong, but whatever you believe to be true, is going to be correct.
Yeah.
If it's never going to work out, okay. Okay, well
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
then I guess it's just never going to
Right.
work out. But
Yes.
where's the benefit and value
Right.
into not only believing that, but then living into it? Why would you want to say, I told you so? That doesn't seem to be a good life plan.
Right.
Um,
That's
so,
right.
so on this same theme, someone's listening and they're thinking, okay, but these 2 gals just don't understand how hard I've got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These 2 gals just don't understand. I'm in a relationship where the person doesn't believe in me,
Mm-hmm.
and they're negative. I'm
Yeah.
I'm positive till the cows come home. But
Right.
how can you blame me when all
Right.
they are is saying, Sally, stop kidding yourself. You're not going to get that promotion. You'd be lucky to be a house cleaner.
Yeah.
So that's the person that I live with, or it's the person saying, this is how I was raised,
Mm-hmm.
being told I would never amount to anything.
Yeah.
So there's the blame of,
Yeah.
well, this is what other people have convinced me of, so how can you blame me for thinking that way?
Yeah.
And so when someone has the blame, meaning that they're the victim of their life because external circumstances have made them who they are,
Mm-hmm.
is your way out of that trap, for the most part, those same 3? Let's focus on that mindset of gratitude and the things that are good and working in our life, instead of the focus of
Mm-hmm.
here's everything that's wrong that's happening to me.
Yes, and it's a yes and. So those are 3 tools that are in the book, and every chapter has the whole book has dozens and dozens. Every chapter's got a whole bunch. But here's what I'm going to say, and then I can give you another tool to the person but you don't understand, because I think people think that they, see me, I'm standing up in front of a group and blah, 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 blah. So here's how this book came about. It's through my own personal experience of decades, and I mean decades, 3 decades, 30 years of the diagnosis ultimately was chronic major depression. So major depression and addiction. And that started when I was 11 years old. First time I remember, so my mom died when I was 9. And
Sorry.
then by the time that's the first time I remember I'd cry out in my bed every night. I would cry out loud. I would say, God, please let me die in my sleep. And just tears coming down my face. 11 years old, the first time I remember crying out that way. And that sense of hopelessness was with me until age 40, 3 decades. And during that process, I mean, I tried everything to make the bad feelings go away, because ultimately that's what we're all doing. We either are trying to get a good feeling or avoid a bad one. And I tried it all. I tried workaholism, and that didn't work. And I tried alcoholism, and that definitely didn't work. Every medical treatment, and I'm certainly not discounting that if somebody's got, a diagnosis like this, they need to get that kind of help. And I tried all of it, but the medications, the therapy, and I had a great therapist, just learned a lot of these tools. Um, but this was the more powerful than any of it. When I figured out how to change my self-talk, everything changed for me. And I'll tell you a tool, because when I was in my 30s, I found myself sitting in a room in a circle of chairs with 15 other people that were talking about their alcohol addiction and drug addiction. And I remember thinking, what am I doing here? How did I get here? And I met this woman who ended up becoming my sponsor, and she was very different than a lot of other people. I just really resonated with her. She was professional, well-spoken, well put together. She was an attorney, and she walked me through the 12 steps of recovery, and we came to the fourth step, which, Michelle, the fourth step says we make a searching and a fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And I thought, well, that didn't sound so bad to me, because life screwed me. Hey, I wasn't the problem. I wasn't out, robbing people to buy drugs and alcohol, or, beating anyone up, or, all these horrible stories I heard. So life screwed me. So that's fine. I'll make the inventory. So she said to me, go home and make a list of every person who ever wronged you, and just a little bit about the circumstances. I thought, all right, I bring it on. Like this, I was so excited, and everyone was on that list. The government was on that
Sure.
list, Michelle.
Yeah.
God was
Yeah.
on there. The friends, family, ex-boyfriends, bosses. So I go back the next week, and I'm getting ready to show her my list, and she wasn't that impressed as much as I thought she should be. And instead, she said, "Now for the second part. Now I want you to go back next to every one of those and write your role in the situation." And I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? My role? I'm not it's not my fault. Not my fault. Which is one of the stories. It's not my fault. And she said, I'm not asking you to assign fault or blame to you or anyone else. And I realized, if I'm the writer of my story with my little typewriter, then I'm in the story and I play a role. We all play a role in the story. That was the most empowering tool. I didn't get it. It took me a long time to figure out it was empowering. But ultimately, because if I play no role and it's all these outside circumstances
Mhm.
that are causing my problems, I'm screwed, pardon my French. There's nothing I can do, and that's the worst place to be. But if I play a role, then I have a choice. I have a choice in the situation, and that, just getting that, turned everything around. So that's a tool we walk people through, how to do the own your role and make the changes in the situation.
So if you go back to you sitting pen and paper on that dreaded assignment, where I'm sure immediately was, well, this will be quick because I really had no role in anything, but I'll
Right?
sit down and go through it,
Yeah.
until you have to sit with things.
Yeah.
Walk me through that bit of when things started clicking,
Mhm.
because I'm sure the first step is, well, maybe I did say some things wrong. I guess I
Mhm.
did react harshly,
Yeah.
so there is some responsibility, but walk me through when that, feeling bad and regret, and now I feel even worse, turns to empowerment, turns
Mhm.
to, wait a minute,
Yeah.
if I have a role, then I have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happened in that time frame? Because I know that people are listening now thinking, well, yeah, that maybe you did have a role. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah,
Wasn't my
yeah.
fault,
Right.
But
Right.
if they did sit with it,
Yeah.
what happens then? What's the
Yeah.
shift that will for a fact occur in someone's
Yeah.
life?
So these stories like, I didn't play a role, there's often some truth that keeps us stuck in our stories, but we're not talking about the whole truth, right? So when I made the first list of people who wronged me, that was truth, right? But if I stayed there, that would keep me stuck because it was only a piece of the truth. There was more to the story. And so I would like to sit here and tell you that when I did that activity, oh, the light bulbs went off and I got it and everything changed. But honestly, it took me a
Long time.
very long time. I hope that putting this book together and putting all of what I had to go through can shorten that time for people. But over time, so we did that activity, and I had to write something down for everyone. But here's the thing about the truth piece for people that are saying, "But I didn't play a role." As children, right? So a lot of it is the victim. I'm the victim. Some people are the victim of, I won't even lots of things we can think of. Oh, my mom dying. I didn't play a role in that. So that there's truth. But the problem is we take the stories that we form, I remember hearing the message my dad said, "Mommy's in heaven." And I was just like 9 years old. Why? Why me? What's going to happen to me? Who else is going to take care of me? And we keep these stories, we internalize them, and science tells us most of our thoughts are habitual. We repeat them and we become unaware, and then we carry these stories through into adulthood with us. So while yes, there is truth that I was a victim of, serious loss at age 9, I'm no longer a victim today. And that's the light bulb moment. Like it was truth then, it isn't today. So now I can recognize a sense of empowerment and what role I want to play.
Okay.
Did that answer your question? I think
It did. It
yeah.
did. So here
Okay.
you are. You said it took time. So
Yes.
so
So
if
walk through.
someone is saying, okay, so I'm going to stick with this,
Mm-hmm.
then walk through the next steps. If somebody is trying to really look back at their role in, the
Yeah.
divorce,
Yeah.
getting fired from the job, their role
Yeah.
in whatever the things are,
Mm-hmm.
how does one incorporate through the work that you do that philosophy in
Mm-hmm.
real time?
Okay.
So that we're not always just fixing things in the past.
Yes.
We're staying present,
Yes.
saying, "What am I
Yes.
doing right now here?
Right.
I'm in a little skitter scat with
Yes.
someone. What
Yes.
am I doing here?"
So the core win here in the owning your role is to get to the place where you realize I always have a choice. That's ultimately the mantra in the situation when I feel like we've got things going on with the government. I didn't get the promotion that I deserved. You know, I work harder than everybody else. I don't make the money I'd like to make. Whatever the case may be, we're not recognizing we have a choice. So ultimately, if you can remember, I always have a choice. Okay, now what different choice do I want to make? I didn't get the promotion. Where might I have been showing up in a way that I can show up differently? I mean, it could be anything from, a new book that I want to read, or I want to work with Michelle, to help me uncover blind spots, or, so many options that we have when we can recognize I always have a choice. There is something I can do differently.
I agree. Of the things, and I do hope people are listening and go back and listen to this even again. Is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning,
Yeah.
right? That's the famous thing is that we can be stripped of every single
Yeah.
thing that we have, own, whatever. It all can be taken from us, but one thing, and that one thing is our attitude.
Yes.
And the way we choose to show up, not
Yeah.
just in the good times when we're at Disneyland, everybody appreciates that, but how do we show up when we're so excited to jump on that flight to go see our family for the holidays and they've overbooked the flight and you no
Yeah.
longer have a seat?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not your doing. You paid
Right.
for that ticket.
Right.
And in that moment, you
Yeah.
do have a choice.
That's right.
And when we are faced in real time with things not going the way we wanted,
Mhm.
right? That is a bit of a reflection of our character.
Yeah.
How are we showing up?
Yeah.
And so of these mindset tips, how are you seeing when you're working with people that in the things that you're doing with the gratitude, with the what were my wins? How did things go well for me? How does that play out unexpectedly?
Yeah.
Like the flight situation, or you show up at the restaurant you've been waiting months to get in, and they don't even have your
Mhm.
reservation, so you're not
Right.
eating there that night.
Right.
So how do these daily habits and practices impact the unexpected things that
Yeah.
come along in our life and how
Yeah.
we respond or react?
Yeah, that's so great. And I'm so glad you mentioned Viktor Frankl, as I mentioned that story in the book too, because, okay, sure as I'm sitting here and talking about, my mom dying, somebody else is saying, well, I have it even worse. You don't understand. I
Yep.
can't imagine anything worse than Viktor Frankl, for those who haven't heard of him, writing about his experience in a Nazi concentration camp. I can't imagine any horror worse than that. If he could say, we always have a choice. Like, we could choose our attitude in any circumstances about that experience, then that's something I really want to pay more attention to. And so this idea of how it shows up in real time, we don't get the flight, or, we all have these sort of trigger moments, and we're all in this journey of practice. And I mean, I react all the time. But here's how people can watch for, like, getting better, because none of us is going to arrive and get it perfect. But if you can sort of watch or monitor the intensity uh, at which you react to something, the duration, how long you stay in the reaction, and the frequency, how often. If you can be, sort of trending in the right direction and reducing any of those, that's a good day. Don't measure a good day by, oh, I didn't react today at all, because I don't think that that's human. I mean, if anybody is getting it right every day, then I want to hear from them, because I
Right.
want to
Or they're
learn
just
from
not
them.
even challenging themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
that's
just sitting
right.
on a couch watching Netflix as a way of
That's
life. I
right.
mean, okay, we can all not be triggered, but then we're also not challenged, which means
Yeah,
we're also not growing
yeah.
or
Well,
interacting with anyone
that's
else
right.
on the
That's right.
planet.
Yeah, they're gonna react. The cable's gonna go out at some point, or,
Right.
there's gonna be
There you go.
something. There's gonna be something, yeah. But but really watching, how we can respond in those ways, because clients will ask me, they'll come back and they'll talk to me, or people at conferences, and, yeah, but I did this, yeah, but I did, I've been trying, but then this thing came up, and yeah, that's okay. It's. I always say life is like one big experiment. Let's just go out and try some things and see how it goes. And if it goes the way we want, great, keep doing that. And if not, you can keep practicing, or try a different tool to get there. But the practice, as they say, practice makes perfect. I like to say practice makes improvement. It's progress, not perfection. And practicing any of these tools, you can't practice them daily and not see some improvement. But here's even the better part. Yeah, then you're not reacting as much. So number one, you feel better. But number two, you start to see outcomes in your life just change. I can't describe how the change
Yep.
happens. I can teach you how to use the tools. I don't know how the change happens, but it really does. And I started practicing all of these because I just wanted to make my bad feelings go away. What I did not expect was every other outcome of my life over time started to change. My career took off in a new way. Relationships were different. Everything, finances, everything was different. And so I thought, well, what if I teach these to others? I wonder if that would happen for them. And just see it over and over and over, how their lives change in ways that they didn't even expect. So many times, people are coming to me, they're miserable at work, and they just want me to help them find a new job, which I can do, but you're just going to end up experiencing the same things
Same
there.
things.
So let's try
Yep.
to work on some things where you're at while you're on your way to where you want to go. And inevitably, if they do find a new role somewhere else, now they're like, now what do I do? Because I'm happier. I'm happy where I am. I mean, I've seen that happen over and over because it really is an inside job. I mean, when you change your self-talk, everything around you starts to change for you.
I agree. And I love this. I hope that people go out and grab your book. I'll have the link obviously in show notes, but
Awesome.
you're absolutely right. You know, when people are chasing down the money, the relationship, the career, the losing weight, the health, the whatever, you know, these are all the symptom of the problem.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that when we fix the core thing, all of those things, when we feel better about ourselves, when we feel worthy, when we feel that,
Yeah.
we're caring about our life in the right way, you're
Yeah.
going to just make healthier decisions.
Yes.
You just are. It's just
Yes.
a byproduct of that. Instead of
Yes.
chasing down that thing, chase down the main thing,
Yeah.
and all the byproducts are going to, by and large, correct themselves. Now, what maybe
Right.
gets to 90%, we can address the other 10,
Right.
but we're not addressing the 100% of that, the 100% of that, the 100%, because
Right.
actually it's 100% of this.
Yes.
It's not,
Yes.
it's really not all that,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Earlier you were asking too, we were talking about how if you're not aware, how do you become aware? Like, where's the starting point if you don't even
Yeah.
know? Because, there are lots of tools in the books to help you separate, like, here is the situation, and then here's the story I'm telling myself about the situation. And in our minds, it's hard to tell. So where do we start? And I always like to say, start with emotion. Because I might not be able to tell you, oh, I'm telling myself a story about that, but I can tell you, I am feeling really frustrated right now or really angry. Or I can tell you, my chest is really tight right now. I'm really
Yeah.
anxious, or my face feels hot and my heart is pounding. I can identify that pretty instantly. And so that's a great starting point. When you're experiencing any emotions, think of those as alarm bells. Just like when my alarm goes off in the morning, it's there to tell me something. In that
Yeah.
case, it's there to tell me get up. But if I have an emotion, use it as an alarm signal. What can I glean from this? What is this here to tell me? Oh, maybe there's a thought, because the thought always precedes the emotion.
Mhm.
I just don't know that. I just know somebody just sent me this email and I'm firing one back. And so, I use there's a chapter in the book called the SEER framework, and SEER is an acronym. We experience the situation, and the first thing we do is we tell ourselves a story. The story then evokes an emotion, and the emotion is what informs our action. And then, of course, the action produces a result. So if we can reverse engineer that whole thing to get to a different story, then we have a different emotion, then we take a different action, and then we get the different result.
I love it. I love it. And it makes perfect sense. And, back to full circle from where we started in the beginning, most of us don't realize that it's not just our life that's a story. It's that we tell that story to ourselves every day.
Yeah.
Every day, reaffirm every day
Yeah.
that story
Yeah.
that is our life, that is our happenstance,
Yes.
that is our thing, that the only one that can rewrite that this minute, right,
Mhm.
is us.
Right.
That's no one else's job to do.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't buy it anyway. If you or I rewrote someone's story for them and said, we've rewrote your entire future, now it's going to be amazing.
Mhm.
Everything is going to go your way. You're going to love all of it. They'd say, well, you don't know me. You don't know
Right.
my life. That ain't going to
That's right.
happen.
That's right.
That's you. That's your
Yeah.
job. And yeah, that's the only one, first of all, that can tell it and the only one that can buy into it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I love this. If somebody is looking at rewriting their own story as we are wrapping up here, and they say, okay, I want one action item I can do tonight before I go to
Mhm.
bed. I'm going to set
Mhm.
aside 15 minutes and
Yeah.
I'm going to start making this my nightly practice
Yeah.
of whatever Marianne says I should be doing to start me on a right thing. I want to start light. Don't have me overhaul all the people I've wronged in my life, but
Yeah.
let me
Right.
start somewhere to
Yeah.
start rewriting my beliefs and my story to possibly, let me buy into possibly having a better outcome.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you 15 minutes every night for 30 days, and
Mhm.
I'm going to see if it makes any difference. What can I
Okay.
do?
Okay. So any of the tools I talked about already. So
Okay.
in addition, so I'll give you another one. At the end of the night, I would reflect on to get a notebook. All right. And I've got a journal, but you can buy that, or you can just get a notebook. And I want you to just make a line down the middle of a piece of paper. And on the left-hand side, I want you to title it out of control. Okay. And I want you to write all the things that you're experiencing that are out of your control. Why, Marion? You just told us not to focus on that because sometimes all that stuff is spinning around like an old tennis shoe in a clothes dryer, and you just get it out. And then shift to the next column and title it in control, and brainstorm all of the things that are in your control. It can be from the day. You can do that every day from the day. And that's harder. That right hand column, this column 2 is harder. But just keep going because the more you come up with, the more energy you'll feel. Because when we focus on what's out of our control, drains our energy, increases anxiety. So start to brainstorm. And the more you come up with, the more energy you'll feel. The more energy you feel, the more things you'll come up with. And then ultimately, like, yeah, you don't have to do the whole 4-step. Like, just do the in control, out of control worksheet. Just do that 15 minutes every day.
Beautiful. If somebody wants to learn more about your work, listen to more of your talks, more of your things, grab that book, where are and how are the ways that they can connect with you and find you?
Okay. Yeah. And you can get the book anywhere books are sold. But if you go to my website, which is my name, mariannerenner.com/self-talk, you can get free chapters of the book. I mean, if you weren't sold on how awesome it is of the podcast, you can get free chapters and kind of give it a test run, kick the tire. You can get worksheets like this SEER worksheet. You can actually get a workbook, free workbook that has every single tool from this book just from the workbook. So at mariannerenner.com/self-talk.
I love it. And this will be in show notes. So if you're
Awesome.
driving or out for a jog right now listening, come back. That will all be there connected for you. I loved this conversation. I know for a fact it's going to be very helpful because I do believe that if this part doesn't get remedied, then nothing else will. So
Yeah.
what we think and what we believe to be true determines our entire future, be that for the good or bad. So
Yeah.
I appreciate this entire conversation. I wrap up every show with the same question. So what is, out of all of your years of working with people and your own personal life experience, what is one thing that you absolutely believe to be true?
Everything starts with the stories you tell yourself, and that when you change your self-talk, everything is going to change for you.
Beautiful. That was a perfect note. And once again, you see it right over her shoulder. If we're going to take control of one thing to set next year up for the best possible outcome, we have enough time in the remainder of this year to really make a very big difference. Now is the time. So thank you, Marianne Renner, for your time here today and for sharing your thoughts and your encouragement and your energy. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight to spend this time with you. I appreciate you and the work that you're doing in the world as well.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, everybody. Please, if there's anything that caught your ear, share it or go back and listen to it again. Let's make our life truly worth living. It's possible for all of us, and yours is worth more than you're giving it credit for. So let's go out and make that difference because that's why we're all here. So thank you again. And thank you for listening to this episode of the Game Changer Podcast.